Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be discussing the future of Hector Bellerin. The Arsenal right back is said to be considering his future at the Emirates Stadium. The report was broken yesterday by James Benjy of CBS Sports. We're going to be touching on that report, having a bit of a skim through it. And we're going to be discussing the issue of Hector Bellerin. Would you like to see him sold? Do you think it's time that he moved on anyway? Is he somebody that you're desperate for Arsenal to keep? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section and we'll come to as many of those as we possibly can between now and the end of this live podcast. So let's get into the report first of all. And I'm going to share the screen with those of you watching via video so that you can see the report itself. And we'll just quickly skim through that before discussing the story. It's an exclusive. As I said, James Benjy broke the news yesterday. He said Hector Bellerin is ready to consider exit with PSG set to revive interest. Now, of course, Paris Saint-Germain were linked with a move for Hector Bellerin last summer. Nothing materialised in the end, but according to James Benjy's reports, PSG could be looking to go back in for the Spaniard. He says Arsenal's vice-captain is ready to part ways with the club as some of Europe's top sides mull over a move for him. So let's quickly jump into the story. Paris Saint-Germain are ready to revive their interest in Bellerin, with the fullback eager to test himself away from Arsenal. Sources have told CBS Sports. The Parisians are not alone in their admiration for Bellerin, who has also turned heads in Barcelona, as well as at least two clubs in Serie A. For their part, Arsenal have not indicated to the player what their plans are for him as he approaches the final 2 years of his contract that he signed in late 2016. PSG attempted to sign the Spaniard before the start of this season and saw an offer worth up to $35 million rejected by Arsenal, who were holding out for a figure closer to around $50 million. Now that is dollars, by the way, right? Because CBS is obviously an American news outlet, so it's in dollars. So if to do that conversion, you know, what are you talking about? If you're talking about $50 million, you're probably talking about 37 million pounds off the top of my head. I'm not a currency exchange unit, but there you go. It says that Hector Bellerin's form has improved of late and he won a recall back to the Spanish squad in November. It's his first involvement with the national team in over 4 years and his fourth among the Arsenal players in terms of chances created this season. It says Bellerin has a deep level of affection for Arsenal, the club he joined as a 16-year-old. He's held in high esteem by his teammates and by Arteta, who was delighted by his decision to stay at the club last summer. But as was the case then, if he is to leave, he would be determined to do so on good terms. Arsenal were reluctant to lose him last year and have offered no indication they are prepared to do so this summer, nor what price they will be ready to sell at. But it seems, according to this report, that the player is considering that move away himself. So I've seen some other stories about this. I've seen some other outlets pick this up and put some absolute nonsense out there. So the exclusive, the initial report, right, it comes from James Benjy. So James Benjy has gone with what he's been told by his sources, and that's absolutely fine. That's great. Nowhere in that report does James Benjy mention that Hector Bellerin wants to leave Arsenal to go on and win trophies. It doesn't say that anywhere. But if you have a look at some of the reports, for example, from the Mirror, which I saw this morning, they are saying that Hector Bellerin has made it clear to Arsenal he wants to leave because he wants to go on and win trophies. And I've seen a lot of hostile responses back or responses towards Hector Bellerin off the back of that. Let's get it clear, right? You can have your opinion on Hector Bellerin and whether he's good enough for this Arsenal side, and we'll get into that in a minute. But Hector Bellerin has not, I repeat, has not gone to the club and said, I want to leave to go and win trophies elsewhere. That's been completely fabricated, because the original report is the one that I've just shown you, and nowhere in that report does it say that. So don't jump to conclusions. Hector Bellerin may want to move to another club, but he's not gone, knocked on Mikel Arteta's door and demanded he be sold to go on and win trophies, because he doesn't feel Arsenal are going to achieve that. So make sure you take the story for what it is. Don't blow it out of proportion. We know that he could have potentially left last summer. We know that there were clubs interested, and obviously the pandemic had an impact on people's finances, and an agreement wasn't able to be reached. Now, Hector Bellerin has been with the club for years and years and years. He's one of Mikel Arteta's leaders, whether you like it or not. He's the vice captain. And I think that he at times has not been up to standard, but I do think he's taken a lot of heat at times when it wasn't always necessarily justified as well. I think a lot of people use what Hector Bellerin does off of the field as a stick to beat him with, which I think is completely unfair. The guy's into fashion, so what? You know, that's what he enjoys, that's what he likes. You know, everybody has hobbies, everybody has interests, and Hector Bellerin's interests outside of his job, outside of his work, are fashion, are environmental sort of things. He does a lot of good work in that as well. And I understand the criticism of his performances, and I don't mind the criticism of his performances. I just don't understand why there have to be agendas about what he does off of the field, when I don't think that is actually a problem in any way, shape or form. Let's go over to the live chat and see what you guys are saying, your initial thoughts, initial reaction to the news that Hector Bellerin is supposedly considering a move away from Arsenal in the summer. Jamie says, let's hope that he leaves. He's not good enough. He can jog on along with the Toblerone midfielder. Josh Hunter says, oh, Becky B, please stay. Pathetic. Obviously not a fan. Lewis says, I hope we can do a City and swap him for a better right back. Danilo for Cancelo sort of deal. MN says, hey Harry, if Bellerin goes, then good riddance, I say. Alex says, if we get around 40 million, that would be massive. Adam says, I would like us to sell Bellerin and find a good replacement, possibly from the Premier League. Peanut Butter Jelly Time says, Bellerin is simply not good enough for Arsenal defensively. He's been a liability. If we can get a version of Kieran Tierney as a right back, then that would be perfect. Hopefully he's a version of Kieran Tierney in terms of what he can do when at full fitness, but not in terms of his fitness record, because Kieran Tierney, I'm starting to worry, is made out of glass, and that is an issue. Rory says, we still need a left back, 2, maybe 3 centre midfielders, a striker, and maybe another keeper, depending on the deal with Ryan. This could add to the funds for the summer, but it depends on how much. What else have we got here? Lots and lots of comments coming through. Let me just catch up with the chat box. T-Talk says, yes, Bellerin needs to go. He's average at best in terms of attacking and defending, but that's simply not good enough for where we want to be. Abhishek says, if a good offer comes in the range of 20 to 25 million, we should let him go. Adam says, we want to sell him because we want to win trophies. Sooty FM says, whilst he hasn't been the best right back in the Premier League, he's been loyal to Arsenal and has been a reliable squad player. Respect to him and good luck if he moves on. Yeah, that's how I feel. You know, I feel like Hector Bellerin at times has been pretty good. I feel like at times he's been average, and I feel like at times he's been poor, just like everybody else in this Arsenal squad over the last sort of decade. You know, Hector Bellerin, when he first broke through, was on everybody's radar. You know, everybody wanted him. Barcelona were interested in him. And that was quite heavily reported at the time, because when he broke through, he was at a really, really good level. I think since the injury, his form's been a bit up and down. I think it's improved in the last couple of months. I know he didn't have a good game at the weekend against Manchester City, but putting that aside, I think in general, overall, his performances have been better than in some previous months. Does that mean he's the finished article? He's the best right back in the Premier League, or the best right back that Arsenal can possibly get? No. You know, I'm not saying that. I never have said that. but he does deserve more respect than some of our fan base show him. I completely agree with what Sooty says there. It's so true. Adam says, if he didn't say that himself, then I have to take back what I said. Yeah, look, there is no, it doesn't say that anywhere in James Benjy's official, initial report. Now, James Benjy, he's been on the show on a number of occasions. You know, I've had the pleasure of meeting James a few times when I've been in the press box at Arsenal. He's a lovely guy, very good at what he does, and he doesn't just write things for the sake of it. But equally, he's written this report, and people have taken it, other outlets have taken it and blown it out of proportion. James Benjy's information says that Hector Bellerin is considering his future. But that could be for a number of reasons. You know, maybe Hector Bellerin wants to move away. Maybe the vile abuse that he gets from some of our supporters week in, week out is another reason why he's considering leaving the club. And could you fucking blame him the way some of our supporters go on? I couldn't. You know, so there's that. But at no point has James Benjy or anybody else of any note or of any standing reported that Hector Bellerin has gone and knocked on Mikel Arteta's door and said, boss, I'm done here. I want to go and win trophies elsewhere. That is completely fabricated. So let's not get into that. Let's not get sucked into that rhetoric that is being spouted about by some of the other media outlets. James Benjy's report does not say that, and that's what you should be going by, because ultimately it's his story. It's his exclusive. Right? If people want to take it and put it on their outlets and add their own little bit to it, that's down to them. But you should always refer back to original sources, right? And it's something I've learned over the last year or so, kind of working in this industry, that clickbait is a huge thing. Clickbait is the strategy most outlets nowadays take, and they will add things on, and they will not be afraid to bend the truth to get the clicks, right? So don't get sucked into that. Always go by the original source, and the original source says that. Nishith says, I thought Bellerin had a long-term project with Arsenal considering off-the-pitch deals. Maybe. So he says, totally agree, Harry. He's been made a scapegoat on too many occasions when in truth the whole squad hasn't been good enough for years. Agreed. And, you know, the scapegoating thing annoys me because it's not most of it, right? The first thing people say about Hector Bellerin, oh, he's more interested in fashion than he is football. He's more interested in the environment than he is his game. And how do you know that? You know, nobody knows that. It's complete and utter nonsense. Just because that is what Hector Bellerin does off of the field, just because that is what interests Hector Bellerin. You know, I love music, right? I absolutely adore music. I sit and I play music. You know, I'm a wannabe musician, right? But at no point do I, you know, does that mean that I can't still do my job right? You know, it's something away from what I'm doing here. It's something that's a break. It's something different. It is an escape at times. It is another focus, and you need that in life sometimes, you know. So to pick on Hector Bellerin because he likes other things is absolutely mad. T-Talk says, I don't agree with the amount of disrespect and abuse he's received. Yes, he's not good enough, but he's never disrespected the badge. Agreed. Big hello to Josh Hunter as well. A79 says, spend big on Hakimi to be a serious club again. Talking about serious clubs, Inter are heading for their first Scudetto in years, man. So, you know, he's at a serious club at the moment, and I'd rather be sitting pretty at the top of Serie A, if I'm honest, than languishing down in 10th for Arsenal. If I was Arsenal, I'd be looking at someone like Achraf Hakimi, but the price, and you've got to consider that Inter have just signed him from Real Madrid as well last summer. So to get him away from there is going to cost huge sums of money, and I just can't see Arsenal doing it. Equally though, someone like Hakimi, who is very, very good, I'm not taking anything away from Hakimi, is a much more of a wing-back than he is a full-back. Right, Achraf Hakimi in a wing-back position is very effective because what he brings to the table is that athleticism, is that dynamism, is the ability to get forward and affect the game in the attacking sort of third of the pitch. In a back four, I'm not so sure he's quite up to it. And that's what Mikel Arteta is looking to go with, a back four. And sometimes it's not just about picking out names, it's about picking out names and picking out players that suit your system. So, yeah, great player, absolutely adore him. And as you guys know, I cover a lot of Italian football. In fact, you can check out the last video, which was the this week's Simply Serie A. We're putting it through the Chronicles of a Gooner this season as well. You can download it in podcast format too, but myself and Vittorio Campanile were talking about the Derby della Madonnina that took place on Sunday. The Inter won, of course, and there was quite a bit of discussion around them. So if you're interested in Italian football in any way, shape or form, make sure you head over and check that out. Just a quick reminder that this podcast is sponsored currently by manscaped.com. So if you're in need of a trim, if you're in need of some male grooming, then head over to manscaped.com. Enter our discount code, which is 90min20, 90min20. You'll get 20% off of your order as well as free shipping. So if the Forbidden Forest is in need of some tender loving care, then head over to manscaped.com. Use our discount. Some of you have messaged me already to say that you've used it. Great. It does save you a fair chunk of money on what is really a good product, I've got to say. Let's keep going through the chat box. Giovanni, one of our members, says he's been a loyal servant, had his highs and lows, heavily unfairly disrespected by fans. Relationship has become stale just because of the state of the club, really. Given everything, it's probably best for everyone. Yeah, I mean, he's given us plenty of years of service. You know, Hector Bellerin joined Arsenal in 2011, right? 2011. Had a loan spell out at Watford, and we're now talking about 2021. You know, so he's done almost 10 years with the football club. In that time, Hector Bellerin has made, and I'll just bring it up on my screen just to double check, he's made 231 appearances for the first team. He's provided 29 assists, scored 9 goals. You know, he's won 3 FA Cups with the club. So if Hector Bellerin is to leave, and you know, and Arsenal, as we keep talking about, are not in a great position financially, and Arsenal as a football club might feel that cashing in on Hector Bellerin is what's needed so they can push forward, so they can continue in the rebuilding of the side. And we know that finances are difficult. We know that the pandemic has had a massive impact. Finally, we've had some kind of light at the end of the tunnel as to when things might be going back to normal. And it just feels like if Bellerin has gone a bit stale and feels like he could go and do something elsewhere, that's absolutely fine if it benefits the club. If the club are going to get a significant amount of money in for him and that helps us progress and develop and it works for everybody, then why not? You know, I'm not dead against it. But you got to replace him if you do that. You know, you've got Cedric at the club. Do you see Cedric as the starting right back? I think he can do a job. But, you know, in the fullback department, if Bellerin went, we'd be very short. We'd have 2 fullbacks at the club. You know, maybe Callum Chambers could be a replacement right back potentially. You know, that's an idea. But, you know, we had Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Obviously, he might be available to us next season, but right now he's not. And is he going to come back? Is he going to come back and be happy to play in that midfield? In either of the fullback positions, having gone and got a bit of a taste of what it's like to play in midfield, his preferred position at West Bromwich Albion. So there's lots to consider. If the money's right, then I'm not against it. But the money has to be right. That's the bottom line for me. What else have we got here? Let's pick up some more of your comments. Lots and lots of reaction to this one. Absolutely love it. Let me... Juan Felipe Palacio Rivera, that's a great name. He says, at his current level, is any club going to invest in him? I doubt it. I don't know. Kieran King says, is he better than Digne, Wan-Bissaka, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Lamptey, Reece James, Castagna? I don't think he is. We need to upgrade. Josh says, shown time after time he's a liability. I reckon we can get 20 to 25 million for him. According to Transfer Market, and I know their valuations are not always gospel, but they value him at £25 million. So I want Arsenal to be at least getting around that mark for him. You know, That would be a respectable amount of money for the player. You know, he's a player who's 25, supposed to be in the peak years of his career. It does feel like he's older because he's been around for donkeys, as I said. You know, but he is still 25 years old and still holds some value, in my opinion. Said Abdullah says, good afternoon, Harry. I think Max Aarons would be the perfect replacement. I like the look of Max Aarons, I do. And I'd be interested to know what Norwich value him at. You know, what do Norwich see him being worth, and whether moving Bellerin on would allow us to do a deal like that. I also like Tariq Lamptey, of the ones mentioned by Kieran a little bit earlier on. Massive fan of Tariq Lamptey. I'm a little bit concerned about his injury record, though. That's another one. And you know, people say that, you know, with injuries that it's bad luck, and a lot of the time it is rotten luck, of course. You know, I completely agree with that. But I do think you have to consider a player's fitness record when signing them. You know, there are examples of where you can't possibly predict it, i.e. Thomas Partey, who we brought in with an almost immaculate injury record, and since he's come here, he's just constantly breaking down. But then you've got somebody like Kieran Tierney, who, in my opinion, as good as he is, the club did take a bit of a gamble on because he did have constant injury problems even prior to joining the club. So someone like Tierney, for me, is a little bit of a risk, or was a little bit of a risk, and has proven to be a bit of a risk because, as we keep saying, you know, he's someone who is struggling for fitness at the minute. So it's not the be-all and end-all, because luck can obviously come into it, as I've just said, but I do feel like you need to be taking into consideration players' injury records when doing deals, especially high-value ones. Chris Pantelli says, hi Harry, I hope it's true because I don't rate Bellerin, to be honest. MN says, Arsenal need to get Max Aarons quickly before he could go to Bayern Munich. Martin also says, get Max Aarons. So there's a lot of you calling for Max Aarons to come in and be the replacement for Hector Bellerin. What else have we got here? Big hello to Billy Boy, who's joining us from Australia. It says, we're at work listening to your show, Harry. Thank you, Billy. Welcome to the stream, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Chris says, Harry, if Bellerin does leave, who would you want? I'm probably going to go away and think about this one in a little bit more detail. Actually, it's probably a good thing to do the members content on this week, maybe. Let me know, members, in the chat. Would you like to see a breakdown of potential right backs that we could bring in the event that Bellerin does move on? If that's something you're interested in, we'll get that made up for you. And the members content is going to drop tomorrow. Wednesday is our members day. I know I didn't get one out last week, but I'm going to be bringing you two this week to make up for it. So that could be one of them. If you're interested, let me know. Shiro says, I think it's time to move on. It feels like a Walcott situation. He's one of our highest earners too. I never liked him defensively. Wish him all the best. Junior Gunner says, Hecky B has the defensive awareness of an academy player. He's always 20 yards too high up the pitch when he has an opportunity to play the final ball. It's usually terrible. I'll tell you what, when people give him shit about his positioning, I actually think that's unfair. And I'll tell you why. He is following the instructions of his manager. When he takes up that inverted position, for example, which he has done very often this season, that is a feature of how Mikel Arteta wants his team to play. You saw it with Manchester City when they came to the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. They play with an inverted right back when in possession because it gives them an extra body in midfield which they can use to dominate possession, to create that overload, to have the extra man. And Hector Bellerin has been used by Mikel Arteta in that role. Hector Bellerin has a very different role at right back to what Kieran Tierney has at left back in this Arsenal side. Kieran Tierney is very much tasked with going on the outside, trying to create that overload on the flank to get balls into the box. Bellerin does it sometimes, but Bellerin's primary role in this Arsenal team is to step slightly infield and as such make it almost a back three when Arsenal do push Kieran Tierney up the pitch. It's a tactical feature of what Mikel Arteta is asking his team to do. And I appreciate that Bellerin defensively has not always been at the level required. He's sometimes let us down. But what I'm saying is when people have a go about his role and about the position that he's playing, let's not forget that he's following the instructions of Mikel Arteta. And for Mikel to be so happy with him, to make him a constant in the side, even when Cedric was not being used to backfill the left-back position, the Portuguese defender who Mikel Arteta signed, who Mikel Arteta raved about when he brought him in, has been available, yet Arteta has constantly turned to Hector Bellerin. So you've got to take that into consideration as well. His tactical role, his positioning is largely down to the manager's instruction. And we might not like it at all times, but if he wasn't following what he's been asked to do, then he wouldn't be in the side. It's for me, it's as simple as that. Osman Ali says, Harry, what do you think about the prospects of getting Karl Walker from Man City? He's only 30. I'd get him and Max Aarons in and sell Cedric. It's interesting. Karl Walker is not without his problems defensively as well, though, isn't it? I mean, he's improved at it of late, I think. But I think you're starting to see the end of Karl Walker at Manchester City, because they spent big on João Cancelo, and I think he's doing a really, really fantastic job in playing that role that Pep Guardiola asks, that role of being a right back when you're defending and stepping into the midfield and showing your technical ability and quality to get on the ball and also help build play in the midfield. So I wouldn't be against Karl Walker because he'd be an upgrade on what we have, but at 30 years old, I think we're going through a building process at the moment, and I'm not sure that Karl Walker, given the money he's probably on at City and what he'd probably demand to come to Arsenal, I don't think that would be the right move, if I'm honest. Ekene says, let's be honest, Bellerin hasn't been the best, but most of the abuse is mostly because some people thought he wanted to kill their YouTube channel. Yeah, look, we all know what Bellerin said about AFTV. We know there's been vile, abusive videos going around about Hector Bellerin from so-called contributors of not just AFTV but of other YouTube channels as well, and there's been this kind of rhetoric from certain sections of the fans and this desire to dig him out, and it's been horrible. I completely agree. So yeah, I'm sure that's partly to do with it as well. It feels like everybody just wants to be offended in 2021. You say something to someone, or you share an opinion, or you give a different opinion, and people can't seem to have a discussion about it one way or the other without it becoming you're this and you're that. And Bellerin said what he said about the channel, and from then on there was the defence mechanisms kicked in, and all of a sudden the abuse started going back towards Hector Bellerin. A few of you asking me about whether I'd like Lamptey. I've already touched on that. I know I'm a little bit behind in the comments in terms of where you guys are and where I am in terms of scrolling through it. Harry Land, one of our members. And don't forget, if you want to become a member of the channel and support me to bring you more content, we got loads of you on board already. I'm truly delighted. Love chatting with you guys in the Discord server. Love chatting with you guys on here as well. But that Discord server just gives us a little bit more of a kind of personal conversation, which I absolutely love. So there's that. There's members only content. There's priority on our phone-in shows. Date to be announced at the next one of those this week as well. So there's lots of perks and benefits available if you wish to become a member. All you need to do is click on that link in the description. You can have a look at the 3 tiers available and decide which, if any of those, appeal to you. We would love to have you, so please do check it out if you haven't already. Harry says, sorry, this does seem like recycled news, but I'm not surprised Bellerin wants to move on. He needs to improve, but he's an easy target from our fans who constantly analyse him unfairly. Hope he can turn it around. Me too. And Harry goes on to make another really good point. Good enough for PSG and Barcelona, but not for us. Exactly. Lewis Cooper says, football fans are notorious for targeting players that show interest in other things. Man United fans were atrocious with Rashford when he was underperforming just because he was involved in politics. Completely agree. Rory asks, in this current day and market, how much do you think we could get for him? I think we've got to be aiming for 25 mil for him, if I'm honest. That's what I would be looking at. At least 25 mil to get Hector Bellerin in. I think that would be around about the benchmark figure. Look, if you can't do a deal for 25 million and someone comes to the table with 22, 23, even 20, maybe you consider it. But I think that should be the aim for Arsenal Football Club. I think that's what they should be looking to get in for Hector Bellerin. Having said that, and I'm not saying another English club would go into the market for Bellerin necessarily, but if it was a rival, then you up that price immediately. You know, we've got to start being like other clubs have been, you know, ruthless in the transfer market, a little bit harder to be pushed around. And you know, if he's going to go to Italy or Spain directly, does that impact us? No. In which case you could probably accept a slightly lower offer. But as I say, the benchmark, the guideline figure for me has to be around about £25 million. Timbuktu says, Harry's into music and not focused 100% on Arsenal football, so disappointed. I can assure you Arsenal takes priority, mate. And my wife will tell you that as well. Let's pick up a couple more comments. Nadine, also one of our members. Hey dear Nadine, says, should Hector want to change, it's better to cash in on him now rather than lose him for a nominal fee or on a free 2 years down the line. Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. What else have we got here? Marshall says, Harry, will you do an Atletico versus Chelsea watch along tonight? I'm not doing one, mate. I'm having a night off tonight because I worked last night. I'm going to be working tomorrow night. I'm going to be working Thursday day and Thursday night because of obviously the Arsenal game, which we'll be bringing you a live watch along for, and I'm going to be joined by a guest as well, a very good friend of mine, massive Arsenal fan. You've probably seen him on the channel back in the day when we begun, so he's going to be joining me for the watch along as well. So looking forward to doing that one with some company here tomorrow night. So yeah, it's unfortunately I'm not going to be doing an Atletico versus Chelsea watch along. I think it's probably going to be a really, really cagey game, if I'm honest. I think that, you know, Atletico would have been favourites going into this maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. They've had a bit of a drop off in La Liga, still top, mind you, still 3 points clear of Real and have a game in hand, but it's just got a few players missing tonight. You know, Jimenez, huge influence on that back line, is out of tonight's game. Stefan Savic, I think, if you remember from his days at Manchester City, is likely to come in and replace him. I think Suarez and João Felix are both available, which is obviously a boost for Simeone's side, but I expect a very pragmatic approach from Atletico tonight. I know they're playing in Bucharest, which isn't their home ground, but obviously the fact that the away goal rule is in play, I think means you'll see Atleti just drop off Chelsea a little bit, allow them to have the ball in certain areas. Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel have had a lot of the ball and not really shown much bite off the back of it, and it'll be interesting to see if they can finally click into gear in an attacking sense. But I think it's going to be a very cagey tie, and unfortunately, Marshall, I'm not going to be covering that one tonight. But I'm thinking about it. I'm toying with the idea of bringing you watch-alongs for other games, but it's got to be the interest from you guys. Otherwise, there's no point. Not going to do it tonight, but if you are interested in any particular games going forward, especially European games, especially games in Serie A where I watch a fair amount, I enjoy them, then please let me know, and maybe we can do something going forward if there's appetite for it from you guys, of course. Right, I think we're probably going to leave it there on Hector Bellerin. So plenty of discussion around the story regarding Hector Bellerin. Let's quickly round up what it is that we've been discussing. As we said at the start of the show, CBS Sports, James Benjy in particular, brought an exclusive to the table yesterday regarding Hector Bellerin's future, in which he said that the Spaniard is considering his future and could be looking to move on from Arsenal Football Club come the summer. As I mentioned, read the exclusive from James Benjy. Don't bother with all the other clickbait crap that is being sent around, because I've seen a couple this morning where he's supposedly gone and knocked on the manager's door and told him he wants to leave because he wants to win silverware, which is absolute nonsense. The basis on which that story has been drawn upon is madness. You know, we've got the exclusive. That's the original source. That's come from the original source. Read that. Don't worry about the rest. So yeah, that's as far as we understand it. Arsenal haven't given any official indication to Hector Bellerin about whether they're willing to sell him or not. Arsenal haven't indicated to any potential suitors what price they would ask for. But we do know a bid was rejected last summer from Paris Saint-Germain, and watch this space when it comes to Hector Bellerin's future. We've established that nobody would be necessarily crying their eyes out if Hector Bellerin was sold in the summer, particularly if it helps fund the rebuild that's currently going on at Arsenal. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. But again, all good selling players. It's all good trying to raise money, but if you're going to raise that money, you need to reinvest it back into the transfer market. So whilst it might not be a mega summer for Arsenal in terms of spending, because as I said, the pandemic's hit, finances are in a difficult place at the moment, it will be a very interesting summer, put it that way, particularly if Mikel Arteta does finish in mid-table and fails to win the UEFA Europa League. So yeah, plenty to look forward to this summer. I don't know if look forward to is the right word, but plenty to be discussing and analysing, I'm sure, over the next few months as this season draws to a close, and then we look and start looking towards the next campaign. Don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you smash the like button. It is so important. Really appreciate your support. In fact, let's check in where we are in terms of likes at the moment on this video. We're only on 42, guys. Let's get it up to 100. Surely we can hit 100 likes between now and the end of the stream. Make sure you hit that by the time the outro rolls. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And of course, check out our sponsors, manscaped.com. Check out their products, and if you're interested in anything, use our promo code, which is 90min20, and you'll receive 20% off as well as free shipping. If you want to sign up to become a member of the channel and receive exclusive access to some of our members-only content, as well as a number of other benefits, including access to our private Discord server, then feel free to click the link in the description and check it out. We would love to have you. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and we'll speak soon. Cheers.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.